Okay, so now on to the next topic, which is housing advocacy. And here you would be the first one speaking. Incumbent President Steven Suresh ran on a platform last year, including a rent guarantee scheme. How serious do you think? How serious do you think the housing shortage issue is for King students, and what would you do to help remedy the problem?
Again, bringing back my idea that I think welfare, mental health, student belonging needs to be a lens for everything else that the student union does, because it is King's worst metric, and I don't see the actual institution of the university doing stuff about it in quite the same way a union could. I have actually had conversations with department heads who are responsible, at least in part, for accommodation choices for their students. And something I brought up with them is that the new accommodation blocks, the high rises that are so expensive, even just for first years, are also the places with the worst student belonging. Places like Moonraker, the most expensive accommodation in the country, belongs to King's. I don't see the point in contracting out any further housing to be that expensive, which is also causing more costly mental health problems down the line. So making better belonging should save us more and improve costs.
Being an interested student, I would first of all take a guarantor for a flat, so I would look into student accommodations. Even I started looking in Feb and March, and then by then all the student accommodations are gone. So this is a huge problem students face right now. So one of the big things that SU can help with the students is providing like what you call like partner with different accommodations, for example, Scape, Chatters, anything, and just try and make room available for them. And also not just at the high prices that they charge, but also cap the prices which they can charge. I know KCL is a student body with around 40,000 students. So they need somewhere to stay. So I believe that SU can do that a lot. They have funds for that. They just need to allocate the funds towards the housing advocacy. And I believe that providing and partnering with different student accommodation bodies would help to just increase the number of student accommodation rooms available to the students, but also increasing the cash rooms available, the King's Affordable Accommodation Scheme, which will allow for cheaper and more accessible rooms.
So the housing crisis and the housing shortage is a big issue. Speaking from personal experience, I am actually a commuter student because I not only was not able to find housing in London, I wasn't able to afford it. And that meant that I spend more time on the trains and on public transport coming into uni, sometimes even for an hour session. And I spend money on TfL, take the train, I take the underground, and then finally a bus to get into uni. And if I was obviously able to find a place in London, that would not be the case. And I know that there are a lot of students in the same position as me. We should not have to spend that much time commuting into uni, spending over an hour just to attend an hour, two, or even a full day. Doesn't make a difference, but it is a lot of time spent. And had there been a house for me and many other students in the same position as me, we would be in similar positions like our other peers who are able to live on campus and who have been lucky enough to find a place.
Right. Here there is a shortage, and that I think is undeniable, but I don't think some of the solutions we've heard put forth today are practical or I believe efficient. A cap was mentioned, and I think honestly that's unrealistic. The best we can do in terms of a quote cap is to control the amount by which there is an increase, but if there is rising demand, there will be rising rent. That is how the market works, and that is not something that the KCLSU or its president can control. Now, fact is that flats are cheaper, and people might not like me saying this because it doesn't sound good, but flats are cheaper, student accommodation is expensive, and there's frankly very little we can do to control that fact in and of itself. And this is more a case about that sort of financial literacy, yes, but also the ability to be the early bird that gets the worm, to use a phrase I've been waiting to use that for God knows how long.
Sure. So, as some of you may know, if you've looked at my manifesto, I'm the LGBTQ plus officer for the NUS. So I've been working kind of extensively around this issue, specifically around housing and policy, and advocating for better housing policy nationwide, specifically as the election is upcoming in the UK. So that's something that I've been working on and passionately advocating for. But in King's specifically, I think one thing that would help hugely is is taking an equitable approach. So this would mean a means-tested housing scheme for at least one or two of King's accommodations, so that students who cannot afford to live in London, underrepresented groups, would be able to afford their housing, and it would be well within their limits so that they could afford to do society events, to feed themselves, etc., without necessarily having to get a job and put strain on their studies. I think a means-tested housing scheme would be crucial for that specifically.